Hi everyone, thanks so much for watching today. Today I have with me Alex Fisher. Alex is an attorney at Thompson Burton here in Nashville, Tennessee. And Alex works a lot with nurse practitioners, particularly when it comes to issues with prescribing controlled substances, as well as licensing. And so today I want to talk to her about if you do get in trouble with your nurse practitioner license, how much should you tell your employer? How do you bring the topic up with your employer? What steps do you need to take in that regard? So I think the first question that I have for you, and we've talked about before, is what do nurse practitioners typically face disciplinary action for with the Board of Nursing?
I think we can break it down into two main categories, prescribing and professionalism. So regarding prescribing, if you are prescribing without documenting, if you're prescribing maybe over-prescribing, if you're prescribing without justifying the reason for the prescription, that's a big reason why nurse practitioners get in trouble.
Okay.
Second, professionalism. So that can be anything from being dishonest at work or about something at work, maybe being dishonest in your documentation even, to inappropriate relationships with the patient or crossing any professional boundaries at work.
Okay. So if you're accused of any of these things as a nurse practitioner, how will your employer find out, and will they find out?
So in most states, the Department of Health, and this is speaking from my own experience, so in Tennessee and most of the states I've worked in, the Department of Health doesn't disclose that they're investigating you to your employer.
Okay.
And the reason for that is there's no reason to disclose. You're simply being investigated. A complaint was filed. They have a duty to investigate it, but nothing has been found against you. There's no discipline. Nothing has happened yet. So there's nothing really to disclose at that point. Your employer may, however, find out that you're being investigated if the investigator shows up at your office,
Right.
if they interview your employer or your coworkers, or if they request documentation from your employer.
Okay. So is it advisable then to let them know that you're being investigated, or is that something that you shouldn't disclose until it becomes they find evidence against you? How should you deal with the timeline for that?
So this is a typical lawyer answer, which is it depends.
Okay.
If the investigator has contacted your employer or your coworkers or requested documentation from them, and they're already aware there's an investigation, I would certainly go ahead and address it with your employer.
Okay.
Let them know what the complaint was, what is being investigated, and the status of it. And you can disclose to them, nothing has happened at this time. I will keep you updated if there's any discipline. Now, if your employer is not aware of the investigation, maybe it regards something that took place at a former workplace that you're no longer at, you don't have a duty to disclose to your employer at the time of the investigation. And in fact, I would advise, and this is what I advise most of my clients, that you wait because a lot of times an investigation may occur and then it's dismissed. There's nothing found that you've done inappropriate. Or they may beginning investigating one subject, and then you're eventually disciplined about something totally different. So you certainly need to disclose to your employer prior to any discipline becoming active on your license. But during this investigative stage, unless they've already been made aware of it, you don't have a duty to disclose, and you might be oversharing if you tell them about the early stages of the investigation.
Yeah, and that certainly makes sense. You know, if you're being investigated for an unfounded complaint, you disclose it to your employer, you really lose a lot of credibility and lose face professionally, and really for no good reason. And so, I think some people could see that as keeping a secret or being dishonest by not disclosing, but waiting until the appropriate time. I think timing is definitely the key here, it sounds like.
Right. I think it's like a lot of things in life, timing. You need to wait till the appropriate time to share something. You're not trying to keep it secret from them, but it's not the right time to share because there's nothing that's been determined by the Department of Health yet.
Right. Okay. And is there anything you should not disclose to an employer? We talked about the timing, but is there anything you should just not tell them about the disciplinary process?
So I generally work with my clients through this process of disclosure to your employers.
Okay.
I think my general thesis that I give to my clients is to be honest and to be brief. You don't want to walk into your employer's office and start crying on your supervisor's shoulder and tell them an hour-long story of everything that's happened. It's just really unprofessional and not appropriate at work. Let them know what's going on in a succinct way. Let them know the status of it and that you'll keep them updated. But you don't need to share every detail of what's going on because it's really just unprofessional to kind of overshare in that way.
Right. Okay. That definitely makes sense. And also I think if you're looking for a job, one thing that we discussed too is to read the questions carefully, because a question might ask, for example, have you ever been investigated for a disciplinary action versus have you ever been convicted? And so if you're reading through the questions on your job application too quickly, you might say that, indicate you've been convicted when really you've only been investigated. It's not the same thing. So really read through that language carefully and make sure that you're answering the questions appropriately, so that you're giving the employer the information they need, but also protecting yourself professionally and really maintaining your reputation.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today. If you have any problems with your license, if you need an attorney to walk you through informing your employer of any disciplinary action or the process of dealing with any disciplinary action with you, Alex is definitely available to talk with you, and I think she's a great resource.
Thank you, Erin.
Thanks.